Well, a stunning new report in the New York Times today says that the presidential aides, some of them, are privately hoping that U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder will step down amid these recent scandals. Here's a quote from that piece today. While the White House publicly backed Mr. Holder as he tried to smooth over the latest uproar amid new speculation about his future, some in the West Wing privately tell associates they wish he would step down, viewing him as politically maladroit. It goes on to explain why in some camps in the White House they think that won't happen, but some do and are pushing for it apparently. Kirsten Power joins me now, Daily Beast columnist, and Rich Lowry at the National Review. Both are Fox News contributors. Good morning to you guys. Good to have you here. I want to play the sound that we had earlier. Bill chatted with Peter King, and listen to what he had to say.
I can't speak for the president, but when you start seeing stories about West Wing officials talking background in the New York Times, that's usually an indication that an effort is being made by some people in the White House to push him out. I doubt they'd be doing that without the approval of the president. But again, the president has been very loyal to Eric Holder in the past.
Kirsten, what do you think?
Well, I don't think it's really that newsworthy that there are people in the White House that would like to see Eric Holder go. He's obviously damaging to the president. There's no question. The issue really is whether the president wants him to go, and they're very close and, frankly, pretty aligned on issues. I don't know what grounds there would be for pushing Eric Holder out for doing things that the president supports. There's no reason to believe that Eric Holder was freelancing or off doing things that the president didn't, fundamentally agree with. He fundamentally agreed with the idea of being very aggressive regarding whistleblowers. So, I think that it's hard to say what will happen, but there's no question that he is harming the president.
I think it may come down, and we'll see, Rich, to how much pressure the president feels he is under here. If the president starts to feel like this is getting very difficult and that these scandals aren't going away, you could imagine a scenario where Eric Holder, who, as Kirsten points out, is a good friend, and this article says is close to Valerie Jarrett and Michelle Obama, two very good allies to have in the White House, that Eric Holder could come to him and say, look, you know what, we're friends, I'm out of here. I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't want to hurt you.
Yeah, that's probably the way it would have to go down, because I just think this is all personal. I think the president is very close to the Attorney General. He feels as though attacks on him are proxies for attacks on him himself. And as you mentioned, besides the president, Valerie Jarrett and Michelle Obama are the two best allies to have in the White House. So it doesn't really matter what the public interest is. I don't think there's any public interest served by having him go on. It doesn't even matter what the administration's political interest is, because those anonymous White House aides are exactly right. He is, at the very least of it, incredibly maladroit, and it doesn't make any sense for him to carry on in this job. And eventually you just have to give it up. That's what George W. Bush was very fond of Attorney General Alberto Gonzales. And after a certain point, he just realized no point was served by having him continue, and he gave it up.
And I wonder, I think a lot will have to do with what other shoes are to drop, Kirsten. If it turns out that there are more journalists who've been investigated and that line has been crossed, that could be a pushing point in all of this. And I also feel like the more that comes out about the Rosen situation and the AP situation, the details that would back up really, was it really worth going after them to this extreme, and was it handled well, and were those guidelines actually followed? If that gets worse, do you think that becomes more problematic for him, Kirsten?
It becomes more problematic. It's very problematic, frankly, for Democrats who are up for re-election. Obviously Obama's not running for election again, but he does need to be concerned about how this is going to damage the Democratic brand. But at the same time, if you watch, you can see that, and this was in the article, that the administration is thinking this is going to blow over, and we just kind of need to sit this out. Holder does not want to leave now with this being his legacy. It's been nothing but controversy basically his entire, tenure. Not all his fault, frankly, but that's sort of the case, and that he wants to get on the other side of this. He doesn't want to leave and say, well, this was my legacy. So if you watch, Democrats are pushing back and sort of saying, nobody was prosecuted in the James Rosen thing. They're kind of trying to downplay a little bit the effect of these scandals.
Well, you're right. The line that's being pushed is that people don't care about this. They want to move on. They want to get back jobs. This is all just navel-gazing, as I guess Gwen Eichel, I think, said over the weekend. So Rich and Kirsten, thank you. We'll talk about it again, I'm sure.